Our next guest is bullish on gold no matter what. That was down 28% in 2013. And on the way down, this guy, Peter Schiff, put together a gold fund and said, buy, buy, buy. Now, on February 13th, 2013, Peter Schiff said, can it get to $5,000 in 6 months? Probably not. In 2 to 3 years, it's more likely. I doubt it will take 5 years, and if it takes that long, it will go higher. Well, let's look at the price on that day when he said it. It was at 1644. And where is it today? It's about 25% lower. And Euro Pacific Capital CEO Peter Schiff joins us now. Peter, I'm going to start where we started before. Were you wrong or were you just early?
Well, I've been buying gold now for 14 or 15 years, and out of the last 13 years, it's been down once, which was in 2013. Did I anticipate a 28% decline in 2013? No. But the fact that it happened doesn't change anything. What's amazing is that you have this big down year, and yet hardly anybody views it as a buying opportunity. They think 2014 is going to be just as bad. You know, the fundamentals for gold have never been better than they are now. The fact that so many people can't see that just makes me even more bullish.
Yeah. Now, do you need for the economy to go into shambles, for there to be a world on the brink of meltdown for the gold play to really kind of go up strongly, or is it instead we need inflation to break out because economic growth is really strong and good, and we get into gold as an inflation hedge?
Well, it's actually neither. You see, what's happening right now is we have a lousy economy, and so the Fed is propping it up by creating inflation. We have asset bubbles in stocks and real estate. We have a government bubble. We're spending all this money that the Fed is creating. That is inflation. If the Fed were to take that away, if the Fed were to ever do the right thing and let interest rates go up and shrink its balance sheet, the market would implode, stocks would crash, housing would crash. We'd be in a much worse financial crisis in 2008. So in order to prevent that from happening and keep the phony economy going as long as possible, they're going to keep on printing, and that is very bullish for gold. What's happening now is people are confusing inflation and a bubble for genuine economic growth. They think our problems have been solved. They haven't. They've been exacerbated. And the U.S. economy is more dependent than ever on money, and that's why gold's going a lot higher.
You're not a believer in the GDP number that just came out for the third quarter? Was it over 3% now? I mean, isn't that okay?
Well, I think the GDP has been goosed by all the cheap money, right? If interest rates were a lot higher, where would the GDP be? If we couldn't borrow and spend all this money, where would it be? I don't think the GDP is indicating economic growth, but it's how much money we're spending and borrowing.
If my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon. But the fact is we're dealing with the situation we're dealing with, and gold was sucking wind here. Now, in terms of the outlook for 2014, because I didn't understand something. You said that if we had this economic collapse, wouldn't that be good for gold? Doesn't money flee to gold in times of fear? But you actually mapped out a thing where because the growth is stoked by easy Fed, that helps gold because there's inflation.
Well, remember, gold was going up faster than stocks in 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005. What did we have back then? We had a phony economic recovery that was generated by cheap money. Well, now we have an even phonier economic recovery generated by even cheaper money. This is a great environment for gold. It is inflation that drives gold, and inflation is quantitative easing. That's what inflation is. Quantitative easing is another name for inflation. It's just a name that the public will like as opposed to dislike. But it is a great environment for gold.
Yeah, when you triple the Fed's balance sheet or quadruple it to $3 or $4 trillion from less than $1 trillion, that is technically inflation. It's a larger supply of dollars. It's just that none of that money has had any velocity moving into the economy. So we haven't had consumer price inflation as yet, right? Past 12 months is 1.2%.
Have you bought any chop meat recently? I mean, do you have any idea what's going on? Prices are actually going up, despite the fact that the government tells us they're not. But one of the main reasons that prices haven't gone up even faster is because we have exported a lot of that inflation to emerging market economies. Check out the inflation rates in other countries that peg their currencies to the dollar that have big trade surpluses with the United States. Yeah. They've got our inflation, and they don't like it. And they're going to send it back to us.
A lot of those countries in the developing world have long had inflation problems unrelated to what the Fed's done the past few years. Peter, if the economy globally doesn't go into the tank in 2014, if we don't have some big, huge correction, some big cataclysm, can gold's price still rise, and how much will it rise this year, in the new year?
Well, I don't know exactly how much it's going to rise, but we had a pretty big down year in 2013. So I would expect a pretty good year upwards in 2014. Is it possible that we can have 2 down years in a row for gold? It's possible. But I don't think it's probable. And I think the sentiment is so overwhelmingly negative on gold and on gold mining stocks. Look at the first 2 years of the year.
Yeah.
Gold is up $35 so far for the first 2 days of January.
Right.
How's the stock market doing?
Okay. So one last question for you, Peter. Because, gold, not that liquid. I can't take my gold coin and really go in and buy a pack of gum. But also, Bitcoin's not all that liquid either. Where would you put your money right now? $10,000 today. Gold or Bitcoins?
Well, look, you can't take your shares of Twitter and buy a pack of gum with that either.
No.
I mean, so gold is more liquid than stocks. But look, when it comes down to whether I want to trust my purchasing power to Bitcoin or to gold, I take gold. I mean, the question is, would you rather have Bitcoins or dollars? I mean, it's a tough one. I still think Bitcoins are a bubble, and I think that if we're going to have virtual currencies, it needs to be backed by real money. Just like physical currency used to be backed by gold, virtual currency also needs to be backed by gold. You've got to back your currency with something. It can't be backed by nothing because it doesn't work.
Okay.
America is a perfect example
of
of why that
Mr.
doesn't
Filibuster.
work.
Thank you very much. Great job, Peter Schiff. Have a good day.